Good evening, campers. My name is Scout. What's yours? I've been playing with dolls since as early as I can remember. Probably my first directing experiences consisted of taking my Scary Spice doll around my suburban San Fernando Valley home in the early 1990s. I would set up various scenarios in her life that allowed for moments of deep transformation. I didn't know it at the time. I thought I was just playing house in my room with the door closed, concealing my queerness like a bad smell. Anyways, dolls have always been a part of my life. It naturally guided me to having a plethora of girlfriends throughout my adolescence, dropping any semblances of masculine friends by the time I was 14, 15. Over the years, I've begun to unpack those relationships while in the midst of my own gender identity journey. In case you missed my last performance, I told the world that I would be beginning my transition. This year, I will begin hormone therapy as the beginning steps of that journey. And while preparing for that step and onwards, I've started to expunge my navigation of the female experience through archival works. This expansion, while an evolving artist in this field, led me to a pivotal moment in my maturation. Picture it, winter 2018, the IFC Center in the West Village. It's cold and it snowed the day before. I'm on a date. There's a running series from Queer Art showing monumental queer classics of the greater camp world. That night they were showing Valley of the Dolls. I'd never seen the full film, only short clips some years ago, and was always entranced. I sat back and was blown away from the moment the opening credits began. This was my life, this was my history, and little did I know it would be my future. This obsession grew as I started grad school. There I plunged deep into research on the subjects of gaze, G-A-Z-E, and authorship, and the interdependent relationship of these two subjects in live performance. Valley of the Dolls seemed like the perfect bedrock for this research. The first step led me to facilitate a cold reading of the original Jacqueline Susan book with 4 femme-identifying conservatory actors in the basement rehearsal studio in January 2020. No one had read the book, seen the movie, or had heard the score. Jackpot. I'd wanted this read to be absolutely cold, no filter, no preconceptions or assumptions about the work, a complete dive into the unknown, the uncertain. And the real challenge for the performer was to provide a sense of fluid presence that could allow oneself to shift at any given moment. Because of the coldness of this read, we have moments of misspeaking, flubbing of words, etc. This is normal, absolutely normal, and as someone who grew up with and still struggles with their own processing issues, I too would need to repeat sentences and sound out words in order to fully comprehend its meaning. We respect the voices and their authenticity, and in that we find the beauty of their truths and how they react to the text and what resonance it may hold for them in their own journeys in this industry. We are here today to witness the dramatization of an excerpt of that cold reading. As witnesses, you get to see me attempt to formulate the beginnings of a script to my female experience, holding the fullness of my past, how I was raised by an array of beautiful women plus across generations, and what my future may look like. This is my love letter to those individuals.
September 1945. The temperature hit 90 degrees the day she arrived. New York was steaming, an angry concrete animal caught unawares in an unseasonable hot spell. But she didn't mind the heat or the littered midway called Times Square. She thought New York was the most exciting city in the world. The girl at the employment agency smiled and said, "Ah, you're a cinch, even with no experience. All the good secretaries are away in those big-paying defense jobs. But honest, honey, if I had your looks, I'd head straight for John Powers or Concord." "Who are they?" Anne asked. "They run the top modeling agencies in town. That's what I'd love to do, only I'm too short and not skinny enough. But you're just what they're looking for." "I think I'd rather work in an office," Anne said. "Okay, but I think you're crazy." She handed Anne several slips of paper. Here, they're all good leads, but go to Henry Bellamy first. He's a big theatrical attorney. His secretary just married John Walsh. When Anne failed to react, the girl said, "Now don't tell me you've never heard of John Walsh. He's won 3 Oscars, and I just read he's going to get Garbo out of retirement and direct her comeback picture." Anne's smile assured the girl she would never forget John Walsh. Now you get the idea of the setup and the kind of people you'll meet. The girl went on. Bellamy and Bellows, a real great office. They handle all kinds of big clients. And Myrna, the girl who married John Walsh, she couldn't touch you in the looks department. You'll grab a live one right away. A live what? Guy. Maybe even a husband. The girl looked back at Anne's application. Say, where'd you come from? It is in America, isn't it? Anne smiled. Lawrenceville. It's at the start of the Cape, about an hour from Boston by train. And if I had wanted a husband, I could have stayed right there. In Lawrenceville, everyone gets married as soon as they get out of school. I'd like to work for a while first. And you left such a place? Here everyone is looking for a husband, including me. Maybe you could send me to this Lawrenceville with a letter of introduction. You mean you'd marry just anyone? Anne was curious. Not anyone, just anyone who'd give me a nice beaver coat, a part-time maid, and let me sleep till noon each day. The fellows I know not only expect me to keep my job, but at the same time I should look like Carol Landis in a negligee while I whip up a few gourmet dishes. When Anne laughed, the girl said, "All right, you'll see. Wait till you get involved with some of the Romeos in this town. I bet you rush for the fastest train back to Lawrenceville. And on the way, don't forget to stop by and take me with you." She would never go back to Lawrenceville. She hadn't just left Lawrenceville, she had escaped. Escaped from marriage to some solid Lawrenceville boy from the solid, orderly life of Lawrenceville, the same orderly life her mother had lived, and her mother's mother, in the same orderly kind of a house that a good New England family had lived in generation after generation, its inhabitants smothered with orderly, unused emotions, emotions stifled beneath the creaky iron armor called manners. Anne, a lady never laughs out loud. Anne, a lady never sheds tears in public. But this isn't public. I'm crying to you, Mama, here in the kitchen. But a lady sheds tears in privacy. You're not a child, Anne. You're 12. And Aunt Amy is here in the kitchen. Now go to your room. And somehow Lawrenceville had pursued her to Radcliffe. Oh, there were girls who laughed and shed tears and gossiped and enjoyed the highs and lows of life, but they never invited her into their world. It was as if she wore a large sign that said, "Stay away, cold, reserved New England type." More and more she retreated into books, and even there she found a pattern repeated. It seemed that virtually every writer she encountered had fled the city of his birth. Hemingway alternated between Europe, Cuba, and Bimini. Poor, bewildered, talented Fitzgerald had also lived abroad, and even the red, lumpy-looking Sinclair Lewis had found romance and excitement in Europe. She would escape from Lawrenceville. It was as simple as that. She made the decision in her senior year at college and announced it to her mother and Aunt Amy during her Easter vacation. "Mama, Aunt Amy, when I finish college, I'm going to New York." "That's a dreadful place for a vacation." "I intend to live there." "Have you discussed this with Willie Henderson?" "No. Why should I?" "Well, you've kept company since you were both 16. Everybody naturally assumes." "That's just it. In Lawrenceville, everything is assumed." "And you are raising your voice," her mother said calmly. Willie Henderson is a fine boy. I went to school with his daddy and his mother." "But I don't love him, Mama." "No man can be loved." This is from Aunt Amy. "Didn't you love Daddy, Mama?" It wasn't a question, it was almost an accusation. "Of course I loved him." Her mother's voice bristled. "But what Aunt Amy means is, well, men are different. They don't think or react like women." "Now take your father. He was an extremely difficult man to understand. He was impulsive and he enjoyed his drink. If he had been married to anyone but me, he might have had a bad end." "I never saw Daddy drink," Anne said defensively. "Of course not. There was prohibition and I never kept a drop in the house. I broke him of the habit before it could take hold." "Oh, he had a lot of wild ways in the beginning. His grandmother was French, you know. Latins are always a little crazy," Aunt Amy agreed. "There was nothing crazy about Daddy." Suddenly Anne wished she had known him better. It seemed so long ago, the day he had reeled forward right here in the kitchen. She had been 12. He never said a word, just slumped quietly to the floor and quietly died, before the doctors even reached the house. "You're right, Anne. There was nothing crazy about your father. He was a man, but he was a good man. Don't forget, Amy, his mother was a Bannister. Ellie Bannister went all through school with our mama. But Mama, didn't you ever really love Daddy? I mean, when a man you love takes you in his arms and kisses you, it should be wonderful, shouldn't it? Wasn't it ever wonderful with Daddy? Anne, how dare you ask your mother such a thing, said Aunt Amy. Unfortunately, kissing isn't all a man expects after marriage, her mother said stiffly. Then cautiously, have you ever kissed Willie Henderson? Anne grimaced. Yes, a few times. And did you enjoy it, her mother asked. I hated it. His lips had been soft, almost slimy, and his breath had smelled sour. Did you ever kiss any other boy? Anne shrugged. Oh, a few years back when Willie and I first started dating, at parties we'd play spin the bottle, and I guess I got around to kissing most of the boys in the town. And as I recall, each kiss was as repulsive as another. She smiled. Mother, I don't think we have one decent kisser in all of Lawrenceville. Her mother's good humor returned. You're a lady, Anne. That's why you don't like kissing. No lady does. Oh, Mama, I don't know what I like or what I am. That's why I want to go to New York. Her mother shrugged. Anne, you have $5,000. Your father left that specifically for you to use as you wished. When I go, there will be a good deal more. We're not rich like the Hendersons, but we're comfortable, and our family stands for something in Lawrenceville. I want to feel that you'll come back and settle in this house. My mother was born here. Of course, Willie Henderson may want to add a wing. There's plenty of ground. But at least it will be our house. I don't love Willie Henderson, Mama. There's no such thing as love the way you talk about it. You'll only find that kind of love in cheap movies and novels. Love is companionship, having friends in common, the same interests. Sex is the connotation you're placing on love, and let me tell you, young lady, that if and when it does exist, it dies very quickly after marriage, or as soon as the girl learns what it's all about. But go to your New York. I won't stand in your way, and I'm sure Willie will wait. But mark my words, Anne, after a few weeks you'll come running home. You'll be glad to leave that dirty city.
It had been dirty, and hot, and crowded. The day she arrived, sailors and soldiers joggled along Broadway with a reckless holiday spirit in their eager stares and convulsive end-of-the-war excitement, but mingled with the dirt, humidity, and strangeness, Anne had felt excitement and an awareness of living. The littered and cracked pavements of New York made the trees and clear air of New England seem cold and lifeless. Unshaven men who had removed the "Room for Let" sign from the window after accepting a week's rent in advance looked like Mr. Kingston, the mailman back home, but a smile had been warmer. It's not much of a room, he admitted, but the ceiling is high and it kind of stirs the air. And I'm always around to fix anything if you want. She felt he liked her, and she liked him. There was an acceptance at face value in New York, as if everyone had just been born with no past heritage to acknowledge or hide. And now, as she stood before the imposing glass doors engraved Bellamy and Bellows, she hoped she'd find the same kind of acceptance from Henry Bellamy. Henry Bellamy couldn't believe his eyes. She couldn't be for real. In her way, maybe she was one of the most beautiful girls he had ever seen, and he was accustomed to beautiful girls. At the end, instead of wearing the outrageous pompadour platform shoes that had come into style, this one just let her hair hang loose, natural, and it was the light blonde color that looked real, but it was her eyes that really rattled him. They were really blue, sky blue, like glacial. Why do you want this job, Miss Wells? For some reason, he felt nervous. Damn it, he was curious. She was dressed in a plain dark linen, and there wasn't a sign of jewelry except a small, neat wristwatch. But there was something about her that made one certain she didn't need a job. I want to live in New York, Mr. Bellamy. Just that, a straight answer. Why did it make him feel like he was snooping? He was entitled to ask questions, and if he made it too easy, she might not take the job. That was crazy too. She was sitting here, wasn't she? She hadn't just dropped by for tea. Then why did he feel as if he were the applicant striving to make a favorable impression on her? He glanced at the form the agency had sent along. 20 years old and a BA in English, eh? Radcliffe? but no office experience. Now tell me, what good is this fancy background going to do here? Can it help me handle a bitch like Helen Lawson, or get a drunken bum like Bob Wolf to turn in a weekly radio script on time? Or convince some fag singer to leave the Johnson Harris office and let me handle his affairs? Am I supposed to do all of that, she asked. No, I am, but you have to help. But I thought you were an attorney. He saw her collect her gloves. He turned on one of his relaxed smiles. I'm a theatrical attorney. There's a difference. I drop contracts for my clients, contracts that have no loopholes, except in their favor. I also handle their taxes, help them invest their money, get them out of any and all trouble, arbitrate their marital problems, keep their wives and mistresses apart, act as a godfather to their children and wet nurse to them, and especially when they're doing a new show. But I thought actors and writers have managers and agents. They do. You notice the gloves were back in her lap. But the jumbos, the kind I handle, they also need me to advise them. For instance, an agent naturally pushes them toward the job that pays the most. He's interested in 10%. But I figure which job will do the most good. In short, a theatrical attorney has to be a combination of agent, mother, and God. And you, if you get the job, have to be their patron saint. Anne smiled. Why don't theatrical attorneys replace all agents? They probably would, if there were enough dedicated schmucks like me. He caught himself quickly. Excuse the language. When I get going, I don't realize what pops out. What language, schmuck? She repeated it curiously. It sounded out so outrageous coming from her that he laughed out loud. It's a Jewish word, and the literal translation would make you blush. But it's become slang for dope. Oh, don't let the fancy tag of Bellamy fool you. Even my freak Episcopalian face. I was born in Burnbum. When I was a kid, I worked summers as an entertainment director on cruises, wrote the ship's column, and they didn't like their fancy columns headed voting by Burnbum. So one guy suggested Bellamy. I met a lot of important people on those cruises. A singer who was working the tour became my first client. A lot of people got to know me as Bellamy, and I stuck with it. But I never let anyone forget that under Bellamy there was always Burnbum. He smiled. Now, you have the whole picture. Think you can handle it? This time her smile was real. I'd like to try. I type fairly well, but I don't know much about shorthand. He waved his hand. I got two broads out there who could win shorthand contests. I want someone who is more than a secretary. Her smile vanished. I don't think I understand. Damn it, he hadn't meant anything like that. He ground his cigarette into the tray and lit another. Jesus, she sat straight. Unconsciously, he straightened in his chair. Look, Miss Wells, being more than a secretary means not sticking to the usual 9-to-5 routine. There may be days when you won't have to come in until noon. If I've made you work at night, I wouldn't expect you to come in. But on the other hand, if there was some crisis, and even if you had worked until 4 in the morning, I expect you in before the office opened because you would want to be there. In other words, you make your own schedule, but you'd also have to be available for some evenings. He paused a second, but she did not react, so he hurried on. Say I was having dinner at 21 with a prospective client. If I go for the right dinner and make the right words, it's a pretty good bet he'll sign with me. But I have to have 6 or 7 drinks with him and listen to his gripes about his present management. Naturally, I'll swear on my life not to do any of those things. I'll promise him everything. The moon with his name on it. Now I can't give him all those things, I promise. But no one could. But I will want to make an honest effort to avoid the mistakes of his present management and keep what promises I can. Only the next morning, I won't remember a goddamn word. That's where you come in. You won't have a hangover because during this thrilling evening, you will have sipped 1 sherry and you will remember everything I have said. The following day, you will present me with a list of all the promises. I can study them when my head is clear. She smiled. I'd be sort of a human dictaphone?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Think you can handle it? Well, I have an excellent memory and I hate Sherry. This time they laughed together. Okay, Anne, want to start tomorrow? She nodded. Well, I also work for Mr. Bellows. He gazed into space and said quietly, there is no Mr. Bellows. Oh, there's George, his nephew, but George is not Bellows in Bellamy and Bellows. That was George's uncle, Jim Bellows. I brought Jim out before he went to war. I tried to talk him out of it, but no, he went to Washington and got carried away with that Navy uniform and commission. He sighed. War is for the young. Jim Bellows was 53, too old for war, but too young to die. Was he killed in Europe or the Pacific? He died of a heart attack in a submarine, the damn fool. But the gruffness in his voice only punctuated the affection he felt for the dead man. Then, with an abrupt change of mood, he flashed one of his warm smiles. Okay, Anne, I guess we've exchanged enough of our life stories. I can start you at $75 a week. How does that set on with you? It was more than what she expected. Her room cost $18, food about $15. She told him she could manage that quite well.
October 1945. September had been a good month. She found a job she liked, a girlfriend named Neely, and a gentle, eager escort named Alan Cooper. October brought Lion Burke. She had been welcomed with instant acceptance by the receptionist and 2 secretaries. She lunched with them each day and at the corner drugstore. Lion Burke was their favorite topic, and Miss Steinberg, the senior secretary, was an expert. She had been with Harry Bellamy 10 years. She had known Lion Burke. Lion had been with the office 2 years when war was declared and had left to enlist the day after Pearl Harbor. Jim Bellows had often suggested that his nephew join the firm. Henry had nothing against George Bellows, but he had always refused. Business and relatives don't mix, he had insisted. But Lion gone, I said right, Lion. Mm-hmm. But with Lion gone, Henry was left with little choice. There was nothing wrong with George. He was a capable lawyer, but he had lacked the chemistry of Lion Burke, at least in Miss Steinberg's eyes. Lion's activities in the war had been avidly followed by all of his staff, and when he had received his captain's bars, Henry had taken off half of the day to celebrate. The last letter had come from London in August. Lion was alive. Lion sent regards, but Lion said nothing about returning. At first, Henry had watched the mail each day. When September passed without a word, he moodily reconciled himself to Lion's permanent withdrawal from the firm. But Miss Steinberg refused to give up, and Miss Steinberg was right. The wire came in October. It was direct and to the point. Dear Henry, well, it's over, and I'm still in one piece. Visited some relatives in London and stopped off at Brighton for some sea and rest. Am in Washington, waiting for my official release. As soon as they let me trade their uniform for my old blue suit, I shall return. Best, Lion. Henry Bellamy's face lit up when he read the wire. He jumped from his chair. Lion's coming back, goddamn, I knew he would. For the next 10 days, the office was in turmoil of interior decorators, excitement, and speculative gossip. I can't wait, the receptionist sighed. He sounds just like my type. Miss Steinberg's smile was loaded with secret knowledge. He's everybody's type, honey. If his looks don't polish you off, the English accent does the rest. He's English? Anne was surprised. Born here, Miss Steinberg explained. His mother was Nell Lyon. It was way before your time. Mine too. But she was a big English musical comedy star. She came here on a show and married an American lawyer, Tom Burke. She retired and Lion was born here, so that makes him an American citizen. But his mother held on to her British citizenship, and when Lion's father died, I think Lion was about 5, she took him back to London. She went back on stage, and he went to school there. When she died, he came back and went to law school here. I know I'll fall madly in love with him, the younger secretary said. Miss Steinberg shrugged. Every girl in the office had a crush on him, but I can't wait to see his reaction when he meets you and me. Anne looked startled. Yes, you. You both have the same quality, the standoffishness. Only Lion keeps blinding you with that smile and it fools you at first. You think he's friendly, but you can never get really close to him. No one could. Not even Mr. Bellamy. Deep down, Mr. B is a little in awe of Lion, and not just because of his looks or manner. Lion delivers. You watch, Lion Burke will own this town one day. I've seen Mr. B pull up some brilliant details but he has to fight every inch of the way because everyone knows he's smart and they're prepared for him. Lion just walks in with the English tone and the movie star looks, and wham! He's off with everything he wants. But after a while, you realize you don't know what he's really like and what he thinks of you or anyone. What I mean is, he seems to like everyone equally. So you get the feeling that maybe deep down he doesn't really care about anyone or anything, except his work. For that, he'll do anything. But whatever you think about him, you'll still wind up adoring him. The second wire arrived 10 days later on Friday morning. Dear Henry, have you seen arriving your
And then it goes on. We read about 60 or 70 more pages of the novel in that basement over the following weekend. A month and a half later, we began to lock down for the beginning stages of this pandemic. I revisit this work as a means of making sense of a profound moment in space and time where art and life became one, where my pursuit towards transcendence was ignited by the innate desire to live my fullest truth as an individual attempting to move through this volatile, toxic, and fucked up field. As I begin this transition process this year, I'm reminded what a sister told me in a dressing room at a racial theater some months ago. You don't have to wait to transition. Timing means nothing, and whenever you can do it, take the step and discover who you really are, or something like that. I'm taking that call to action now, and I look forward to seeing you all on the other side. We'll be now having a short conversation with Teresa Buchheiser from The Brick and Handa Nansbilgen from LPAC, Associate Artistic Director and Director of Rough Draft. If you have to leave at this point, no worries. If you have any thoughts, feel free to send them my way at any time you can. Thank you.
I just sent you a text about it.
My phone's on airplane.
Thank you for staying. My name is Handa. I am director of Rockland Festival. So here.
Teresa, and I've been working with Handa this year, but attended for many years, and I think Scott was the first person to invite me actually way back in the day. I got very lost in the science hallway, soloing in a pen.
Yes, Scott used to work with me here, so but I didn't know how amazing a performer you are. Oh my gosh, I was blown away by it. I know your skills as a director, I know your skills as a producer, but this is wow. Congrats. Yeah. You wanna start it? Absolutely.
I mean, I guess there are so many things, but I'd be curious about if you can chart some of that path between the readings that you were doing before the pandemic and where you've come in your intersection with this piece.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, I don't know if this is relatable content, but some people have let go of many things that they were working on before the pandemic, but others have found a way back into it. So I'd be really curious about that.
Totally. Yeah, so I record like everything I do usually, like from a reading that is like going to be turning into something to just friends gathering in an apartment. And there's always been something interesting to me about archive in the most like natural, organic form it can take, and it's something that doesn't feel edited or altered at all, and something that feels like it's coming from a place of truth in some way. And there was something about this moment in time in which I was like believing there was something up ahead, things shifting in the sands for the right reasons and not so right reasons, but finding, again, just a real entry point into just like that moment in time and just like what we all brought to the room together, and feeling like people actively responding in real time to text and allowing for moments of failure are like my two favorite things in the theater that not many people like to engage with and like to explore if it's scary and it's a little dangerous. It's something that's really exciting to me, and that always feels present in these kind of archives where anything kind of can happen, and we find out like later in the later sessions of these moments that like we just like break out from the text and like have these like full-on conversations, or like someone finds something really funny and then we just like lose our shit, and it's just really wild, and just like these other springs of resonance for them as like 20-year-olds beginning to find out like why they're jumping into the field from like this very sheltered conservatory program into what we are in now, and then being spoon-fed a different version of what we are in right now, and feeling like there was some kind of need to like revolutionize the femmes at Carnegie Mellon to be like more anarchist and kind of blow shit up and have agency in spaces. That's a lot of the time at med school beforehand didn't feel like that. And as someone who was starting to build that vocabulary in grad school for my own gender identity journey, I just felt like there was like two prongs going against each other that felt like there was some kind of dramatic tension to it. And then when initially trying to do this as my thesis show was going to be like 4 masked men doing these lip syncs, because that's the only casting breakdown they were giving me at the time, which is a whole other story. And that didn't pan out because they didn't want to develop this further, and then other things happened. So I was like, okay, this has to be saved for something else. And then when jumping into performance again in grad school and doing lip sync work and starting performance albums, I'd always been interested in working from a place of verbatim or a place of found text that's also just non-theatrical, though this text is super theatrical. It's theatrical too. And yeah, I just felt like when navigating those types of works, I wanted to try and jump into this as like also an interesting duration, and this series altogether is like 2 hours and then 1.5 or so all the performance together. So eventually I wanted to do the full stretch of that. So it was both an investigation of like exhaustion, female experience, agency in the field, and like what does that even look like now, and yeah, especially for this younger generation of folks, and how this book to me and this movie and the whole entire franchise is really indicative of like where we've been and where we're going, and also it's like it's mirrored in terms of like Real Housewives and the Kardashians and like that type of relationship of like gaze again Jay-Z and how we're looking at the female experience and like what agency is actually there, and when they know they're a doll versus when they are consumed by the doll image, and like losing money or divorces and all of that stuff like we see in these franchises, where they know they're a doll and they can like work it and have like beauty brands and sell out stadiums and have book deals and like really milk it for all it's worth. And there's something of like knowing that to be true as a film identifying performer, and like how to use that information when navigating a field that is still super fucked up and super aggressive and violent. So it felt like both a call to action for myself and also like for all of us.
Yeah, I'd say that's a significant journey that sort of vibrates on all of the levels of what your experience has been through school, who you are, and the actual things that you have encountered as part of the industry, and then also the pandemic, and also collaborators being a part of something and then no longer being able to. It's like there's a lot of things. So it leads me to question like, how do you feel about inviting in other dolls to some extent? Like, will you bring in some of these other sort of cultural dolls to continue to help contextualize what you're fighting for and against, and also collaborate?
Yeah, so the initial dream is like we do a stretch of this transcript, and then there's a jumping off point where the reading goes awry, and all the actors are like, so I have a signal in the rehearsal room that like ends the process at a given point, and it's just this like documentary space into something that is like spectacle, extravagant, and what we expect from this kind of an exploration. So yeah, there's a desire to have a full team of that, introduce video design as well, a lot of food camera as well, and kind of that's like much for the
Speaking of, are there things, so this clearly has been living with you for a while, and you have figured that out. But are there things that you're doing next and next and next? You already sort of, now that we can vaguely plan to do things again, which maybe get to accomplish them, what's next? And where do you see this living in that world? What's next for you?
Totally. Yeah, so next I'm doing another lip sync, which feels like the series of lip syncs from like 2020 until I don't know when, of just these like one-person embodiments of conjurings and rituals to go back into archive in some way. The next one is Your Space, part of your New York series, and this is a piece called Witch in Them, and it's my dramatization of a production of Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe that I was in with Tiffany Trump. And Tiffany Trump was the White Witch in the show, and I was one of the orphan kids in the family. And when like we were watching the production video that my parents still have at our family home, I was like playing on repeat this like Turkish delight scene in which she's luring me into evil and supremacy with tasty treats. And there's something about looking at that on repeat as an exploration of like our relationship. We were super close at a certain point in time. Then come graduation of high school, and I was like kind of held captive in this circus world of I don't know what from my family, but like at a really young age, known her since I was like 6, having a really soft spot for her. So this is like kind of like the exploration of like what that relationship was, and why I still feel like there's some kind of sense of hope with it, even though like we've seen what the effects have been with that. So yeah, still exploring duration, still exploring solo performance at the time. But would love to have an ensemble of folks again with that as well in the future to fully flesh out the movement. Yeah, and then starting to see how it kind of is imbued into like larger works where I'm like jumping in and out of the world. I can use more so in the directing side of things as well, and not just be like solely directing my own body, which has been fun and interesting. Watching a lot, rehearsing every day, and just like finding what the relationship wanted to be in terms of audience engagement. Just like looking at video and then kind of just taking editing notes, and then and just having a conversation with folks too, like having a second friend come in for an hour to watch it, and just having working some dialogue about that. It was nice because of this project starting in the pandemic and in grad school, there was like already kind of like initial directing conversations on like the engagement wanted to be, which was helpful to like just like dive in kind of in my mind. But it's not the most enjoyable experience because it feels out of body the entire time, which is also like kind of probably like me jumping back into performance and like wanting to engage with that kind of in and out kind of a space. But it's a real challenge that brings me back to like my choreography roots, which is not concert.
Should we open it up for questions? Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? Go for it.
Okay. So I was thinking when I was watching, my brain kind of went, I thought about Roger Ebert, who was really obsessed with Ballet of Dolls, as you probably know. And like, he really had this male perspective about it, about the artificiality and what was on display, and of course that was a long time ago. And here what you did was you put like another lens on it. So, we have the book, and we have the people reading the book, and then it's you interpreting the people reading the book. And you were talking about how you wanted to build the world and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And my question is, what is the ending? Are we diving into total artificiality, or are you looking for the truth? Because you're looking at it from this modern, queer lens.
Yeah.
That is my question.
Totally, it kind of camp holds those two spaces. Like camp for me, especially in our late stage capitalism camp, is holds a duality of both truth and artificiality all at the same time. And there's moments where you can separate that out and start from one place and go to another. But there's something integral for me of those two things existing at the same time. Where you can tell that plants are plastic or any of those key markers. And inherently then also too for me, camp is always political. So that is always the underbelly for me. How can those two things existing be a Trojan horse in some way to build something greater to be able to bring out for an audience to engage with in some way. But yeah, that's what kind of keeps things I'm wrestling with for sure.
Okay, well, if no one has any more questions, everyone should follow Scout on social media. I always forget he's on social media. I think you are.
Yeah.
But you should do that, and also just, do you have a newsletter? I got a thing for you.
You gotta think for me. Yeah, I gotta keep up to date. Yeah, for sure.
There's pins on that piece of paper, so, and then put your email down, and then come check out Scully Part of Tarot Bank at Brick in August. So that's where this Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe is going to be happening.
Thanks, everyone. So that is very important.
Oh, God, thank you so much.
I sent the text. I was a little bit before. I I waited forever. Yeah, we just talked. Hi, hello. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Oh, we need a catch up.
Introduce you to your child. This is my daughter.
A glass of something and more.
So long time.
Just lovely to see you.
And I've talked to them about, wanting them to come to the
Yes, I'm sure you are, as we all are in our different spheres. Sometimes they intersect.
It was like the kind of like
When is it?
there is roommates and the boyfriend and like therapist. It was the first rough draft. It was not the first rough draft. It was this
Oh,
one.
yeah, send me an email. We'll read it. Talking about yes.
Yes.
No, things that my memory refreshed about.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is not a little ridiculous. This is like the first idea.
Thank you. Always good to see you.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about this?
Yeah, so we'll continue on.
Yeah, I was interested in seeing we talked about last
Yeah.
how different work parties I saw in London and then saw Dodge, and then just like seeing the
What is
different
my
levels of readiness.
When I was a child. And I guess I'm sure that's all of this means. And, and I was sorry when Miss Garland made it through the final movie, but then Harry Potter, also.
I
Bring in other artists into the process. So part of it's been my experience.
Oh, yes, you were yes, you were on Facebook.
Yeah, so it's just sort of busy and I'm like going through like
She was just sitting here.
used to this
Maybe in the back.
staff transition.
I'll be around.
Just being like uncovering a lot of
Yeah, she is here for shooting.
Yeah.
things.